It's great to
How's
be.
it going?
It's going very great, Blake. How are things going with the company?
Oh, they're going good, man. Just busier than I've ever been.
Yeah, I've noticed. So yeah, I have about 25 questions about your racing career, although if you need to do fewer, I'm okay with that too, but do you think we could try to fit all the 25 questions in?
Yeah, let's roll with it, man.
Alrighty, cool. So my first one is where are you originally from?
I'm from West Palm Beach, Florida. I was born in Daytona Beach, Florida, but I moved to West Palm Beach when I was about a year and a half years old.
Nice. I'm originally from Estes Park, Colorado.
Oh, so that's cool.
Yeah, have you ever been there?
No, no, I had not.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool place. And yeah, it's basically the headquarters for the Rocky Mountain National Park.
Cool.
Yeah. So after that, my next one is what made you get into racing?
Well, I started racing dirt bikes when I was 9 years old, and grew up racing dirt bikes till I was about 18, and due to a couple injuries, I stopped. And when I was in college, my stepdad was like, "Hey, I want to buy a little race car. Would you want to drive it?" And I said, "Sure." And that's when I drove my first race car. I was 20 years old. Went to Orlando Speed World and drove one of those little pro trucks, and really fell in love with stock car racing at that point.
Ah, pretty cool. That's really cool, man. And how I got into racing was the Disney film Cars.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah, and my grandfather was a big race fan, and he was at the Indy 500 where AJ Foyt won his fourth.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah. What was it like making your first nationwide series start at Memphis?
It was a day I'll never forget. My expectations were really high, and I didn't know racing that well yet. You got to think I started racing when I was 20 years old in a stock car, and when I'm 23, I made my first Xfinity start. So
Mm.
I expected to drive for an underfunded team, but still have a shot at winning the race because I thought I was better than everybody. So
Ooh.
when I got there, qualified around 25th and finished 17th, I was pretty disappointed. But looking back, it was a pretty good race for the equipment I was in and the situation I was in. But I didn't really know it at the time.
Ah, yeah. I kind of know that feeling because I kind of went through a little bit of a rough period a few years back. And when you're a teenager, you kind of think you know everything. You know what I mean?
That's right. Yep, that's right.
And I've learned over the years that I don't know everything.
No,
And
no.
the only person that does is God.
That's
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Yeah. So what was driving for Pat McDonald like?
It was, when you're young and you're trying to pursue a racing career and be the best, you kind of lose sight on your current situation. So when I was first racing for Pat and Randy McDonald, I was just really concerned on what was next for me. How can I get in a better car, in a better ride, in a winning car? But looking back, that was one of the most fun and best years of my career. It was a family-owned team. Pat McDonald, she charged the radios and booked travel, and Randy, her son, ran the competition side. Was basic. I mean, pretty much the crew chief. Him and I would go and buy used cars together from Turner Motorsports, and it was such a small team. It didn't feel that fun at the time, but looking back, it was one of the most fun years I had in racing.
Oh, That's great to hear. Really cool. What was driving in Montreal for the first time like?
Well, I remember taking a lap around there, and it was very blind. Like, it's hard, you don't see a lot of the racetrack at one time. And I'm not a road racer, so, you know, I felt like there was not much forgiveness if you went off the track or made a mistake. So I remember being pretty timid, and really taking my time to learn the racetrack. And I didn't have iRacing back then or a simulator, so I had to learn it. You know, when I got behind the wheel and went on the track. But it was a fun place, and the area is super nice.
Yeah, that's one of the races that I really wish they didn't take off the calendar because it was so unpredictable.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, and what was driving for Rick Ware Racing like?
Yeah, that was a struggle that year, 2012, where we entered the season. We thought we were fully funded, but I lost my only sponsor when the season started. So, you know, Rick was, you know, went out there trying to find sponsors. I was trying to find sponsors week to week. It was really tough. And then we ended up having to start and park, and I was expecting my first child at the time. And that year was a crucial year for me. I lost my ride, I lost my job, my wife's pregnant, and I actually started driving Trevor Bain's motorhome for him to make extra money. So I was Trevor Bain's motorhome driver, and that got me to the racetrack and paid me to get there. And then I just tried to stay in the garage and get any opportunity I could find.
Good on you, man. That's really cool. Trevor seems really nice. I always liked him.
Yeah.
What was driving for TriStar Motorsports like?
Well, for me, you know, I'm trying to think back of how I got the job with Mark. I think I had the opportunity to get in the 99 car at Homestead, and I qualified second. And that was kind of a standout race for me. And Mark Smith and I started talking after that weekend. He saw my ability and wanted to hire me and bring me in as a paid driver in his organization. And that rarely happens. So for me, that was a great opportunity to Mark would have been the biggest race team I drove for at the time, 4-car operation, big shop. But Mark Smith and Kathy and Amy, their family, is incredible, and I miss Mark a ton. Straight up guy, always kept his word, was super nice. It was just a family. He really cared about people and gave drivers opportunities. So it was definitely a great experience for me. I learned a lot from him as far as a businessman and how you do business and a handshake deal. And I was very fortunate to work with Mark.
That's really cool, and I had a great experience with the TriStar team about a year ago because I met the crew chief, Frank Kerr.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. What was driving for Jim Rosenblum's fire department truck team like?
I mean, that was fun. It was different. I remember, you know, I just hopped in that truck. He asked me if I drive it. I said, yeah, I was available. It wasn't my seat. I didn't know the setup. But those guys that are there, it was a charity. Those guys are wanting to raise awareness for, you know, the New York Police Department, and they just went there to have a good time, a barbecue, having food, and that truck on the track was just icing on the cake for them. So I think the main goal is just to make the race and qualify for it, and we did that. And then after that, it was just about enjoying the day and meeting firemen and having a good time.
That's great to hear. And I remember there was a period in my life where I wanted to be a firefighter, but then I got into motor racing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What was driving for Curtis Key like?
You know what? I've only talked to Curtis maybe one time. That was kind of just they hired me to start park. They knew I could get in the car and qualify for the race, and that was the only purpose behind that. So really didn't develop any relationships over there other than just hopping in the car and laying a lap down and leaving.
That's kind of tough, yeah. How did you get the leaf filter sponsorship?
Yeah, so I got a call from Archie, the owner of Go Fast Racing.
Ooh.
And said, this is like a Wednesday before the Charlotte race, the October Charlotte race. So practice is Friday. He calls me on Wednesday, says, we have a sponsor, but JJ Yeley just left our team to go to BK Racing, and we know you're one of the few guys that'll fit in his fire suit and his seat, and want to know if you're available to drive. And come to find out, Leaf Filter was their sponsor. So I drove the 32 Cup car for Archie, and I met the guys at Leaf Filter, developed a relationship with Matt Colleague, and then they sponsored me another time with Archie at Homestead in the Cup car that same year, and then the relationship just continued.
Nice. That's really awesome. Great to hear.
Yeah.
So did the leaf filter sponsorship play any role in your decision to start an air filter business?
It did. Absolutely. Great question. I saw how leaf filter, how big it was, and where Matt started. It would be like 14 years ago now. But I saw where it started and how many hundreds of thousands of people will pay money for convenience to not have to clean out their gutters again. And I know it showed me that people really care about their home. No matter what the economy's like, people still take care of their house. And if I could come up with another idea like that had to do with your home and protecting your investment and giving people, making things convenient for a homeowner at a good price, I knew I would be in a good business. And that's when I came up with Filter Time. With people are already buying air filters, you have to have them. It's a pain in the butt to remember your size, remember when you changed it last, remember what quality you got last time. It's just an inconvenience for a homeowner. So that's when I came up with the air filter subscription program.
Nice. That's very clever. I've always seen that as a clever idea. Pretty good.
Thank you.
So, what was your reaction to your career's near miss at Road America when you led late and then broke with a few laps to go?
I feel like I've had a few of those, but it was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But that's, when you're in racing long enough, you get kind of used to the roller coaster of emotions. There's super highs and there's super lows and everything in between. And that was a circumstance where it went from a really high moment to a very low moment. But you're at this point, if you're a professional race car driver, you're pretty mentally tough, emotionally tough, and know how to deal with those things.
Yeah, good on you, man. That's very tough. Don't know if I'd react the same way, so that says a lot about the type of person you are. That's pretty good.
Thanks.
What was driving for colleague racing like?
Well, that was different because Matt wanted to own his own race team, so I had to, and he didn't know anything about owning a race team, and I had to do it for him. I remember designing the logo and sending Matt, different logo options and finding where we were gonna. We needed to get somebody to run the race team, and I recommended Chris Rice. So we met with Chris Rice, and he was hired, and then we had to decide, where are we going to buy a hauler? We got to buy a hauler, and then we ended up buying hauler and equipment from TriStar because I knew Mark Smith well, so we bought equipment from Mark Smith, And then we went and met with RCR and came up with the Alliance program and got prices. So I was really a part of that race team, from designing a logo to finding a shop to work out of to hiring a general manager. I was a part of the whole process. So that was a learning curve for me. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about starting a business at that point. And yeah, it was an experience I'll never forget.
Awesome. Did that help you did your experience with building the team help you as far as building up your business, Filter Time?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. It's totally different. I think my experience with being knowing the ins and outs of Leaf Filter and knowing the employees and talking to Matt and picking his brain for 3 or 4 years,
nice.
helped me with Filter Time. But to be honest with you, my biggest help for Filter Time has been talking to Kelly and Dale Earnhardt. Their wisdom and their mindset and goals is how I structured Filter Time. I started talking to Dale and Kelly before Filter Time was even launched a year and a half ago. So everything, the foundation of that business was built off of myself, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and Kelly, in the way we wanted to treat our customers and make it hassle-free, worry-free, and all about the customers. That's all from Dale and Kelly.
Pretty cool. What was your reaction to finishing 9th at Daytona for your first top 10?
It was okay. It wasn't a great race. I remember losing a lap and not being able to pass. And, I think I just stayed out of trouble and made a few good moves in the last lap to finish 9th. So I think it was more about the fact we finished without crashing in our first race as a race team. And it was a top 10. It was pretty cool, but it wasn't like I wasn't super excited. You go there and you want to win, and I wasn't competitive all day, but I finished decent. But I'd rather run well all day and have great moments and lead races and maybe crash at the end than I would have just stay out of trouble and finish 9th. So it wasn't a standout moment for me.
Yeah, so it wasn't memorable.
Not really.
What was it like making the chase for Colleague?
Making the chase was awesome. That was our goal as a startup race team, single car organization. We wanted to make the playoffs. It would have been a huge accomplishment, and it was kind of nerve-wracking. So we had some DNFs that year, mechanical failures and stuff that made the points kind of close. So it was cool. It was fun.
Pretty cool. That's good to hear. And what was your reaction to winning the pole at Talladega?
Yeah, now that was awesome, because one of the goals I had entering NASCAR was to win a pole one day and win a race, right?
Yeah.
So winning the pole at Talladega was kind of a huge relief, because that's a stat. And I don't have many stats as a driver. I haven't accomplished many, great stats. So having a pole at Talladega is something nobody can ever take away from you. So it was pretty cool. It was a proud moment. It was fun. Probably the second best moment I had in my career. Probably second best moment I had in my racing career was winning the pole at Talladega. It was just fun.
That's great to hear. And what is fatherhood like?
Fatherhood is the second best thing for me in life. For one is my wife and our marriage, and I value that more than anything. And two is our kids and being a dad and the way you look at life differently. You're not just thinking about yourself. You're trying to, plan and plant seeds for a future for your family, and also not only provide for them so they have a house and food to eat, but try to provide opportunities for them to try new things and try sports and do things they love. And the struggle for me has been is to, shut off work at a certain time and give them enough of my full attention. And I feel like when I was a race car driver, I didn't do that very well because I was always thinking about the next race. I was always thinking about my car, and everything was all about me. Like if we went to family functions, it's all about me. Where now with filter time, at 5 o'clock, I'll shut work down, and all I think about is my kids and my wife, and I can give them my undivided attention and passion and emotion. So I feel like I've grown closer to my family since I stopped racing, and that's a great thing for me, is to be there for them at these ages in their lives, because it doesn't last very long.
Good on you, man. That's a great way to look at it, and that's really cool. What was it like raising an infant in the first days?
Say that again. You broke up a little bit.
What was it like raising an infant in the first days of parenthood?
Oh man, dude, it was very difficult. More difficult than anybody can tell you or prepare you for. But for me, that was the time with our first that I was driving Trevor's motorhome around the country. So 5 days after my kid was born, I'm on the road driving his motorhome to Michigan. So credit to my wife for being there and by herself, taking care of our infant in North Carolina with no family around. It was just us. So that was all on her.
That's really cool. How does religion impact your everyday life, if it does?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not a really religious person, other than, I just consider myself a Christian man that tries to do everything to glorify God, right? I truly believe that God has his hand on my life and family, and knows everything about me and what the future holds, and all I try to do is be obedient to that and move in the right direction. So what that looks like is, for me, is to start the day off with reaching out to him first. Before I open social media, before I check an email, I go into my office, I read a chapter of the Bible and ask God to speak to me through his word. And I read a daily devotion and I pray, and then I'm ready to start the day. So that's kind of what how the way I look at faith is, knowing that God has a plan for me, but I just need to be obedient to his calling and direction, and seek his direction daily.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I let God impact a lot of the decisions that I make in my life.
Yeah, it's too stressful to try to make decisions on your own.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely true. And what's your favorite Christian film, if you had to pick one?
Man, I love I Can Only Imagine. I love also God's Not Dead. Probably God's Not Dead is probably my favorite one.
Yeah. If I had to pick my favorites ones, I would have to say God's Not Dead as well. And if I had to pick one that left an impact in my early years, I haven't seen it in decades, but it had an impact on my Christianity early on, and it was The Prince of Egypt.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and what I like about God in that one is they make him mysterious. You know what I mean? Yeah, so those films had an impact on my Christianity for sure. And yeah. What's your favorite classic film involving motor racing, if you had to pick one?
Days of Thunder.
Yep, I had a feeling you were going to say that because everybody else has.
Oh, yeah, great.
Yeah, I might as well change the question to, what's your favorite classic film involving Days of Thunder? Because everybody is saying that.
Yeah. Yeah.
How does your future in racing look for you?
I have no idea. I take it day by day. I'd love to get back in a race car a few times a year. I think that'd be really fun. But I'm still actively involved in racing with my job at Fox Sports. being an analyst for the Xfinity Series. So I would love to continue that role and grow within Fox. So I think my main tie into motorsports in the future will be from the TV side and from the analyst side. I really enjoy it. I know a lot about our sport and the drivers and have great relationships, and I love explaining that to the fans. So I care a lot about our sport. I care a lot about the drivers and the team members and personalities, and I also care a lot about the fans, and being able to bridge that gap of communication is something that I enjoy a lot.
Nice. That's pretty cool to hear. And this is my last question on the list. How did you get the deal with Dale Earnhardt Jr. to be a partner of Filter Time?
Yeah, so I was actually driving down the road, and I was thinking, man, what can I do to make Filter Time awesome? You know, it'd be nice if I had like a recognizable face tied to it. And I'm having these thoughts for weeks, and I was driving, and I was like, man, Dale's filming like a DIY show, rebuilding his house in the Keys. He's the most likable person in sports. People trust him and what he says, and he's just such a real, genuine guy.
Yeah.
And I don't think if I start naming off celebrities across the world in every industry, I don't think there would be a better one in the world for Filter Time, for an air filter business, for the everyday person that cares about maintenance and does things themselves. I just don't see a better fit in the world. And I'm like, well, man, that's crazy. What am I gonna ask Dale to be my partner? I don't even know Dale. You know, what am I gonna call him? So I was too embarrassed to ask my friends for his number because I didn't want to tell him I wanted to call Dale and be my partner in Filter Time, because you gotta remember when I first reached out to Dale, it was just an idea. I didn't even have a website. I didn't have anything yet. It was just an idea. And I got his number from somebody that I've never disclosed, and he told me not to. And I text Dale, and I was like, hey, man, it's Blake Koch. Hope you don't mind me reaching out. I'm pouring all of my passion that I have into my new business. And I'm done with racing for now, and I'm totally focused on building a business that has everything to do with marketing and branding. And I would love to pick your brain one day. And he replied, said, awesome, let's get together for lunch. Kelly will set it up.
Ooh.
And Kelly reached out to me a few days later and asked if I was available to meet with her and Dale for a meeting. And I said, yep. I sat down at Junior Motorsports and told Kelly and Dale my passion behind Filter Time, my plans, how I came up with it, and where I'd like to see the company go one day. And when I was done talking, Dale asked me if I would be interested in him being an owner with me. And I said, yeah, that would be amazing. And he said, awesome. Well, let's figure out a good partnership, and we'll talk soon. And he had to go record his podcast. So that's how it went.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And I'm glad that your company has Dale Jr. as a face for it. That's really cool.
Me too. I couldn't have asked for anything different. It would have been my dream. If there's anybody in the world to be my partner with Filter Time, I would pick Dale Earnhardt Jr.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. Yeah. Alrighty, that's all I have. I really appreciate you making the time for me.
Yeah, sorry it took so long to connect, man.